Holy crap. Joe Biden is using ChatGPT to fool the American people. Holy crap. From my observation, it seemed that Joe Biden is doing exactly what I'd expect him to do if he didn't care about all these civilians being killed, but wanted to pretend as if he did because of potential political impact. So potential voters looking at him as a savage, right? To me, he's doing exactly what I'd expect him to do if he wanted a virtue signal to those people that he actually cares, while doing nothing meaningful to push back against Israel because he is more focused on the alliance than the humanity and basically the fact that it's committing war crimes. So I asked ChatGPT for its opinion, and I was shocked at what ChatGPT said to me. Here's the question I asked: what are some tactics that the president might utilize if he wants to give the impression that he actually cares and is doing his best, but is really more focused on protecting the alliance and does not have the appetite to stand up against Israel? What are some tactics that might utilize that would potentially fool Americans, especially voters, into thinking that they're doing their best and they actually care about what's happening when they don't? This is what ChatGPT responded with. If the president aims to maintain the appearance of concern, we're concerned, while prioritizing the alliance with Israel, several diplomatic tactics might be employed. Rhetoric of concern, using strong language to express concern about the situation without committing to concrete action. Wow. Can anyone tell me what concrete action Joe Biden has committed to doing if Israel doesn't shape up? Has Joe Biden even suggested that they're doing anything wrong? Or he just pretends as if, you know, everything's cool, but if it gets out of control, then we're going to do something, right? Like they'll say stuff like, Israel needs to make sure that they're doing their best. It's like, bro, as you're saying this, they're slaughtering babies. Like they're already doing what you're saying. They need to make sure they don't do. They're doing it already. Like, bro, what are you doing? Number two, calling for a ceasefire, urging a ceasefire without enforcing any real penalties for non-compliance, which appears proactive, but doesn't necessarily change the situation. So Joe Biden's not even willing to do this. So ChatGPT suggested to call for a ceasefire, but Joe Biden is being so passive, he won't even go that far. So think about that. This is listed as a tactic to utilize if you don't care. If you don't care about the civilians, you might call for a ceasefire, right? Don't be too aggressive about it, but just go through the motions. He's not even willing to do that, actively saying that no one should be saying anything about ceasefire. What we talk about is humanitarian pause. Right. Number three, humanitarian aid. Announcing humanitarian aid to affected civilians, which is a positive action, but doesn't address the root cause of the conflict. Humanitarian aid. Humanitarian pause. Seems like Joe Biden's using ChatGPT. And for those dummies, I don't actually think he's using ChatGPT. I just think ChatGPT is calling out Joe Biden for the truth about what he's actually doing, which ironically, the right-wingers who hate Joe Biden and love to see content about how Joe Biden sucks and how weak he is, seems like that rhetoric is not very interesting in this instance. So when he's actually being weak, right, he's actually, it's humiliating how he's making it almost seem like Israel is the superpower. Israel is the one in power. Oh, we don't want to hurt Israel's feelings. Like, this goes counter to what a lot of the right wingers talk about in right wing media. We're the greatest country in the world, and this and that, and other countries, they need to listen to what we have to say because we have the power and the wealth and blah blah blah. Joe Biden's doing the opposite. He's acting. He has made right now in this conflict, America is the bitch. America is Israel's bitch. But where's the right wingers calling him out for this? Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Number four, diplomatic engagement. Holding meetings with international leaders to discuss the crisis, giving the appearance of active engagement. Diplomatic engagement. Didn't Blinken just go to the West Bank? Didn't we have other people that went over there and had secret meetings and discussed certain things, and then we got leaks coming out that says like, oh, he's actually pushing them behind the scenes to do better, but he doesn't want to say anything publicly. Where have we heard this before? Anyway, sending envoys. Dispatching envoys to region to assess and report back, which can be a stalling tactic. We're going to make an assessment. We're going to report back. Okay. Supporting resolutions. Supporting or drafting United Nations resolutions, calling for peace and respect for human rights, which may have a limited practical impact. Okay. Number 7, promoting dialogue. promoting peace talks between the parties involved. Again, something that you would do if you don't really care about the civilians, but want to pretend like you do. But Joe Biden's not even willing to go this far. So he's less interested in pretending to care than this. Like, this is too far for Joe Biden to promote dialogue. Not really promote dialogue, specifically peace talks. Doesn't even want to do that. That's too far. That's too close to pushing back against Israel. Doesn't want to do that. Right? He wants to be even more passive than ChatGPT has suggested. So I responded because I realized a lot of this stuff is even more aggressive in terms of like this passive strategies is representative of someone who cares a little bit more than Joe Biden does about these civilians. So I said, let's try to get down to Joe Biden's level. So I said, what if America is really afraid of seeming to be against their ally? They really are afraid of giving the impression that they're calling out their ally. But with the looming election, they really want to convince potential voters of the opposite. Give some tactics in this scenario where they're a little bit more beholden to Israel relationship than they are with the tactics that you just described. So where the U.S. is cautious about appearing to oppose Israel but wants to convince voters of its concerns, the tactics might include emphasizing shared values. Publicly focus on the shared democratic values and long-standing friendship between the U.S. and Israel, which reaffirms the alliance without directly addressing the conflict. Number 2, back-channel communications. Some of those leaked conversations. Privately communicating concerns. We're concerned, we're very concerned to Israel officials while maintaining public support to avoid the appearance of a rift. Hey, baby, please stop killing the civilians. It's making me look bad. Publicly, we stand with Israel. Bipartisan statements. Coordinating statements across party lines that express concern for civilian lives while reiterating the importance of strategic alliance. Again, they're not even willing to do that much, I don't think. Selective condemnation. Condemning the actions of non-state actors like Hamas more strongly than those of the state actors to show a stance against violence without signaling out the ally. International cooperation. Encouraging international partners to take the lead in voicing concerns, which allows the U.S. to align with a broader consensus without being the primary critic. Media strategy. Even these are more aggressive than Joe Biden is willing to do. Joe Biden is being ultra passive here. Media strategy. Utilizing media, aka CNN, MSNBC interviews, and press releases to highlight U.S. efforts to promote peace and stability without providing specifics that would upset the ally. Congressional resolutions. Supporting non-binding congressional resolutions that express concern for the humanitarian situation, which have moral weight but limited practical consequences. You see the theme? No consequences. So some of the stuff Joe Biden hasn't done yet. So stay tuned and see if he actually does some of these other things that ChatGPT suggested in the future. Let's see what if Biden really does not care to convince the voters too much that he cares. What if he only really cares about the allegiance lines? What would he do if unserious or uninterested in spending too much time and effort convincing voters he cares? What would he do? Okay, I shouldn't make it about Biden. I don't know how, because I'm talking to you guys about Biden. I put it in there. Previously, I wasn't talking about Biden. I didn't mention him. I just said United States. Let's keep it that way. What if United States, as if it's a person? This should be interesting. If the U.S. administration is primarily focused on the alliance with Israel and not on convincing voters of its concern for conflict, the president might, Issue general statements. Make broad, non-specific statements about the desire for peace and stability in the region without addressing the conflict directly. Avoid public comment. Minimize the amount of public commentary on the conflict, thereby reducing the attention it receives. Deflect responsibility. Shift the focus to the United Nations or other international bodies to take the lead in addressing the conflict. Highlight other issues. Direct public attention to other domestic or international issues, effectively sidelining the conflict in media and public discourse. Veto condemnations. Wow. Use the U.S. veto power in the UN Secretary Council to block resolutions that condemn Israel's actions without providing extensive justification. Wow. Maintain military support. Continue military aid and support to Israel, affirming the alliance without making it a prominent topic of discussion. Diplomatic support. Offer behind-the-scenes diplomatic support to Israel, ensuring that alliance remains strong without it being a focal point for the electorate. In this approach, the administration's actions would be more about maintaining the status quo and less about engaging with the electorate on the issue. Wow. Interesting. Keep in mind, this AI has no knowledge of what's happening right now, right? So it's communicating without that specific context. And yet, eerily similar. A lot of this stuff sounds very similar to what's happening right now. Why would ChatGPT seem to be so accurate in predicting how we would act in a situation that it has no knowledge of? How did that happen? What does this mean? What does this tell us? Has any of this made you have a pause, a humanitarian pause, and think about your previous thoughts about what's happening? Made you reconsider your thoughts on how America is dealing with the current situation? Comment below, let me know. This is the Debate Channel. Debate in the comment section below. Click the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Holy moly.